Hello? 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 Am I on? Hey. Are we online yet, or what's going on here? Oh. The band. Why isn't the band out? Those guys. Get the music going, you guys. Come on. What's with it? Turn it up a bit. Come on, you guys. Get the sign going and turn the lights on in the studio, you guys. You're gonna burn that light out. That screen will burn out too, you know. Get the studio lit, damn it, guys. Oh, mess these guys are. Okay, well, come on and be happy then. Let's start this over. Okay, guys, you can turn it down there. Oh, this studio here is just crazy some days. Okay, let's shut her all down. Get the band off there. Welcome, guys. Welcome to JW Night Talk. Well, we weren't quite organized here for this show, but the good wife said the show must go on. So here we are. Thank you for attending and putting up with my poor sense of humor. But that's all I got for you today. Besides being narcissistic, and you've seen my bad side, of course. Getting mad at the band, and those guys flicking the lights on. They're just going to burn the lights out. We all have a bit of a narcissistic personality, perhaps. We're going to talk about that tonight. I want to say hi to Joe and Fran. Joe and Fran's on tonight. We're going to show their website, first of all. We're going to take a look at their website. They have a brand new website. Jackie Jax, hello. Queen of Flatulence. Hello, Queen of Flatulence. Did I say that right? Flatulence. And Natasha Peters. First Live, welcome to the show, Natasha Peters. What's that? Oh, flatulence. Right. Okay. Thank you for that correction. So Natasha Peters, thank you. First Live. AG74. Let me get on my live chat here. And there we go. So that brings us to Ricky Bobby. And Niner Nations, California. Hello. Hopefully it's warmer down there than it is here. Okay, I want to show you guys something. This is the coolest thing. We're going to get it up on the display here. And there you guys can see what I see on my control panel. But here we go. This is XJW Friends. Brand new, hot off the press. Joe and Fran are on tonight. You'll see them on the chat. This is their site. And let's look at it. It's just starting. XJW Friends. A friend in need is a friend indeed. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to our new site. It's currently under construction, so check back frequently for what's new. The address is quite simple. It's xjwfriends, plural.com. Upcoming meetup events, that's open. And then support groups coming soon, and job board coming soon. So it looks like, I'll get off the picture, just let you see the whole thing here. This is what it looks like. So the side panel, let's keep in touch. We'd love to keep you updated with our latest schedules. What's your name? So you can kind of click here, put your name in and your address and stuff. I think you click on this one maybe. Yeah, you just kind of plug it in here. So I just put in my name, kind of a thing, eh? And my last name. And I put in my email address. There, I'm going to sign up for real. There, I signed up. Oh, I got to confirm that I'm not a robot.
I'll do it later.
What do you do there? Type in the characters you see in the picture. I can do that. GCL5X. I guess that's a big thing, those robots. Okay, so now I'm in. And I'm in there. I'm in something anyway. So I'm going to go back to the home page here. And here we are. So you can just hit the meetups right here. If you hit the meetups, you notice I just hit that. And it shows here, I'll just come back on the screen here. And you can see the meetups uniting friends from all over. Our goal is to introduce friends, new and old, to share their stories and successes in leaving high control organizations and religions, such as Watchtower. We're all navigating into a wide world of fulfillment that is socially and economically secure. A bright future that friends all around the world are creating right now. Joe and Fran Garino. So upcoming events, scheduled meetups. Upcoming one is 30 Mohawk Valley. So you can click on there and it pulls it up, gives you some addresses here. So you can, I think, get involved there. They say come and join us. So we're going to go back. And want to request a meetup right here. Here's how you do it. You type in your name and your email address and where you'd like to meet, and you'd hit Let's Meet. That's quite that simple. So great job. That's starting for everyone to take a look at. Thank you to Joe and Fran, and thank you to the good wife helping out. I'm going to come back on the screen here. Oh, wrong screen. See that other? We've got lots of studios here. Some studios just sit there empty all the time. A lot of overhead. It's hard to keep up. Okay, let's carry on. Narcissism. Who here is a narcissist? No one wants to admit or talk. Narcissist, come on, I'm not a narcissist. I'm not a narcissist, but I know when the end's coming. It's coming any day now. I am not a narcissist. I told you that. I am not a narcissist. Now get in your place. You see, narcissists. I don't think we were that bad when we were JWs. I'm just acting a bit here. Now, let's talk about this collective narcissism, also known as a group narcissism. It's not just a handful of people with narcissistic traits grouping together. It's just a handful of people. It can be just a handful of people. Group or collective narcissism. In fact, on this channel, we could be classified as group, whatever. Well, not really. We tried to look at it that way, and it doesn't fit because we'll get into it here. It says it describes situations when groups of people hold a collective belief that their group or organization is superior to others. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. So if you know of a group or an organization that collectively hold that their group is superior to others or superior to those around them, then those people belong in collective or group narcissism. So what fits these things? Well, religion. Religion fits it. All the religions. Pretty well every religion on earth fits this classification. Even getting out, when I got out of the JW religion, walked out, sometimes that collective narcissism sticks with us. And we walk out, we leave the organization, and we still have thoughts that our thinking is superior or elevated thinking to those around us, especially when it comes to religious dogma, religious matters. We might think, we left the Jehovah's Witness organization. Maybe we left it because we were disgruntled or, someone treated us wrong or whatever, so we left for that reason. But maybe we still kind of believe in a lot of the stuff. We haven't really completely got out. And so there's going to be different levels that people have as they wake up. There's a whole waking up process. I found mine was a long time. It took years. So we're hoping on this channel, by talking right up front about some of this stuff, that it doesn't have to take you guys years. That's the hope. The hope is that if you can dig right into this and understand it, if I was brave enough to go on the internet, for there was 10 years I didn't look at this stuff. But if I would have went on the internet and looked at some of them sites, like Critical Thinkers, for instance, they talked about collective narcissism back in 2019. Now, do you guys remember that video that they did back in 2019? I didn't. I wasn't around. I wasn't in the community back then. But they did a really beautiful video. In fact, we commented on it, and we told them we're going to show it tonight, and we hope that they come on the channel and talk in the chat, because they really did a nice job. So we're going to show that a little bit later on, and how they put this all together for our community, and it really made a lot of sense when we watched it today. So let's talk a little bit further about this collective narcissism. What is a collective narcissist? Well, collective narcissism is characterized by the members of a group holding an inflated view of their in-group, which required constant external validation. Sounds like anything familiar? It's Watchtower, 100%. Collective narcissism. It can be exhibited by an individual on behalf of any social group or by a group as a whole, right? So we're really going to nail down on the governing body here tonight, because those are the guys. And, I've been thinking about this for quite some time, the governing body, about them guys and how they think. And just give me a second here. I'm back. Thank you. The governing body, we're going to talk about them. So here it is. What is communal? Communal narcissism. This is another word, communal narcissism. Well, it's a form of grandiose narcissism. Grandiose. So where you feel above. So you think of the governing body, communal narcissism. So Jehovah's Witnesses might have what they call group narcissism, where, at least when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I was in the group for 30 years. I was in that group, and I felt superior. I felt like I had knowledge that my mom and dad didn't have. I had knowledge about the end. I had knowledge about the Bible. And there was no one around me that could show me that my knowledge was bad knowledge. There was no one. And I felt superior. And I think a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses will feel that way within their, let's say, their worldly family circles. So be careful, guys. When you leave the Jehovah's Witness, because eventually you will, those worldly family members won't take you in because you're a narcissist. They knew it. You'd walk around there like you're some god, like you know it all. I was sure they didn't know the Bible or anything, but they're good people. And that's the problem. That's the problem with, Jehovah's Witnesses. We walked around like we knew everything, like we were little gods, mini gods kind of thing. And it's really unhealthy. But now, where did we get that from? Well, we were fed this continual supply through the Watchtower. Or Watchtower, now it's videos. Now it's all these videos on jw.org. It's a continual supply of videos to teach communal or group narcissism. The grandiose of the narcissists within, they are extroverted. They have an inflated self-view, and they believe that their abilities and characteristics to be superior. They are in Jesus' right hand. They are the anointed. They are the faithful slave. That's pretty high up. That's pretty high up. But in the communal domain, communal narcissists present themselves as altruists, caring, and extremely community-minded. So they present themselves. They walk amongst the great crowd that are going to jail for them, that are in Russia. You see them in pictures, and they walk amongst us, the other sheep. And we look and we think, oh, there's the governing body. And they're all over the TV now, all over the internet. And they're huge. So, yeah, that's a huge thing, narcissism. Now, how do you know if someone is a communal narcissist? Well, communal narcissists tend to over-exaggerate their knowledge and skill set. Seem like someone we know. Perhaps the governing body, perhaps Rutherford, Russell, all of those guys. So they've over-exaggerated their knowledge in the end times. It didn't happen. And here they send these new ones in, like Jeffrey Winder, the newly elected one, that has to come up and say, well, we make mistakes. We're not perfect. We screwed up. We're not even inspired. Give us a break. But we're the faithful slave. Like, how can you be both? How can you not be all of those things, but yet be in Jesus' right hand? How can you be worthless? We screwed up. We made doctrinal errors. We don't have to apologize. The light was so damn dim back then, we couldn't even hardly see the Bible. But now it's as bright as hell. Turn off the lights, everyone. Turn off the light. I better not say that too loud. They'll start turning the studio off and on. Anyways, they exaggerate their skills. They believe that they are the most charitable and likable and knowledgeable in their field. They'll take that Bible. This is what blows me away about the governing body. They take this Bible, this new one. This is the 10-year anniversary. It was a landmark back then, and the new landmark is they came online this year at the annual meeting and say, yeah, this is our landmark. This was the Bible that they really twisted up the most. There's the most twists in this Bible. They've taken right out of it, John 8, 1-11, took it right out. The 1984 edition has it, but they just took it right out 10 years ago. And then they get up in front of us and they say, well, we're not inspired. We make mistakes, doctrinal mistakes, but we don't have to apologize. Why should we trust their landmark Bible? You see, they over-exaggerate their knowledge and skill set. They did that back then, so now they have to get up and they have to twist it. They have to change it somehow. So they believe that they are the most charitable, likable, and knowledgeable in their field. Everything must go through them. And they often position themselves as the gatekeepers within their organization and groups. Remind you of anybody? Who's the gatekeeper within this group? Excuse me for a moment. I have to check something here. We have some bread we're baking here, so just give me a second here. I'll look after you. I'll put the band on. There. Okay, you guys can go. I'll come back on the screen here. Here we are. Okay. So we were talking about who? The governing body, and how they tend to over-exaggerate their skill set and their knowledge. Now, what separates a narcissist from a normal person? What separates a narcissist from a normal person? Well, a common sign of people with narcissism is a belief that they are superior to others and deserve special treatment. Do you think the governing body gets special treatment? Like, I don't know, special laundry treatment, special meals, you think, at Bethel? Or are they the same? Do they get a little better car, maybe? I don't know. Is their suite a little better? Do they expect... You see, the problem with these guys, even circuit overseers, I noticed all the years I was in, and even elders, not all elders, but some elders, this narcissism goes to their head where they feel that they're superior to others and they deserve special treatment. Circuit overseers, not all, but some. And that's what they say. We're going to look at some statistics and stuff. Not everyone's a narcissist, but if you think that the religion is actually a narcissistic religion, to say that we're the only ones on earth, would that not attract other narcissists? Birds of a feather flock together kind of an idea. Could. We had that discussion. You can't blame... There's a lot of innocent people that grow up in this religion. They're raised in this religion, and they're not narcissists. They're just in a narcissist group. That's all. So what starves a narcissist? What starves them? What starves Jehovah's Witnesses that has the truth knocking at your door? Hello? Hey, are you home? Okay, let's try the back door. Anybody at home at the back door? Oh, we're not supposed to go around to the back door? Okay. Yeah, you're not supposed to go to the back door. I went to the back door once, and I was surprised. There was some sunbathers in the backyard, and we won't go on with that story. But anyways, don't accommodate them. That's how you starve a narcissist. Just don't open the door. Don't answer the home but hiding. Home but hiding. HBO? No, home but hiding. HBH, home but hiding. Remember that? And then they said, don't put that on the cards no more. We were putting home but hiding, HBH, because you'd know they're home. You might as well call them home, right? Why are we wasting our time? They're hiding. So then you try again in different time, and sure enough, you see people through the kind of the curtains. You kind of look, you're looking. Jehovah's Witnesses are really nosy. We were really nosy. We'd be looking because we're going to save them. We're the only ones with the truth in the whole wide world. We got to get them at home. We got to get them. They have to at least have the chance. So you see, that's how narcissist we were. And we were nosy at the door because we're so narcissistic, thinking that we had to save everyone. Do narcissists get nasty? Narcissists truly believe that the world revolves around them and that their needs are superior and more important than anyone else's. And when they do not get their way, narcissists feel a loss of control, resulting in bouts of rage as a way to regain the upper hand. Now, have you ever felt that way? I can't say that I haven't because... I think I was like that as a kid. If I'd go to the store and I couldn't get a candy, I'd maybe jump up and down a few times, and sometimes my mom would give in. My mom was a pushover a lot of times like that. But kids can learn that, right? If the moms give in. I was reading about that, how kids can learn to be narcissistic. Get their own way. They become bullies. I wasn't a bully, though. My older brother was. So, anyways, those are family sibling issues. We're talking about group narcissism, like I'm superior. My religion is better than your religion. Yeah, you ever have that argument at the door? A Mormon. We hated that. We didn't want to get to the door and find a Mormon or someone that knew the Bible. We always hoped in our heart that when we're knocking, we want someone that doesn't know a thing. So we just kind of get in and get out and maybe place. In them days, we were placing magazines and just kind of, that was easy, getting literature in people's hands. You know, you'd just hold it out. You see, when you hold out something, people automatically take it. We had a circuit overseer teaching us all these sales tricks. They're just sales tricks. And we got good at them. You could place lots of magazines, but now they want you to have a conversation.
I used to take the magazine to get them to go.
Yeah, my wife just says she used to take the magazines just to get the witnesses to go. So, because they got to save you, right? But now it's getting difficult. You can't, it's not all about the magazine placements. They've changed their whole program. They want you to start conversations. They want you to use empathy, be like Jesus or something. Remember, we studied all about that on this channel. We're going over that stuff, but it's changing. They actually want you to do what you should do, I guess, be conversational with people. And they're teaching people how to be more informal witnessing is what I see going on. But we'll wait. You see, we're getting a lot of this information way before it's even out on the streets, out on the Kingdom Halls yet. And they haven't even seen some of the 2023 annual meeting stuff. So we'll keep everyone posted. So anyways, when we look at the thumbnail, narcissism, we have a pencil and an eraser. And we're trying to erase some of this stuff out, right? Are you with me? Because I am, and it's a little bit of work. We walk out of this group, we become an ex-Jehovah's Witness, we walk out, and we still carry some of that stuff inside us. Now, we're going to talk about collective narcissism. Collective narcissism, it's a tendency to exaggerate the positive image and the importance of a group to which one belongs. And I'm just reading this right out of Wikipedia. The group may be defined by ideology, race, political belief, stance, religion, social class. So this is not a new thing, this collective narcissism. This has been going on since beginning of time with people. People get together, they group up, and my group is better than your group. What do you think all the wars are about? But look at the Bible. Look at the holy books in the world, all of the Bibles. What comes to my mind is this lifelong war between Christianity and Islam. The two Bibles. They all come from Abraham. They have the same father, really. But yet there's this division. My group is better than your group kind of a thing going on. And the Bibles kind of talk about division in a lot of ways too. So we plugged in. We're going to look at that tonight, and I'll throw some of this stuff on the screen. Now, the development of the concept of collective narcissism, that happened when, big time, what we reminds us of is when the... way back when they came in and colonialized, I know I use that word out of place on this channel, but they colonialized all the nations, the Europeans, I guess. So up here in Canada, Australia, Britain, we're all kind of colonialized, kind of. And then a lot of the native way back then, and this is just what happened, this is just history. They said they came in here to Canada, and they pretty well squished out all the native beliefs because Christianity was forced upon all the people, and they did that through the churches, the governments, and they put all the churches in all these native communities, and they did residential schools and everything, and they beat the indigenous out of the people is what happened. And that was a part of, that's what we're talking about, collective narcissism within nations, to think that our belief is the supreme belief. So we still have that today. It's something, but it's going away. I see that it's going away. But we're going to talk about it, what it does to society, what collective narcissism does. I'll throw this up on the screen here. There, that actually is not bad. In everyday settings, it can keep people from listening to one another, and at its worst, it might fuel violence. So it shows a picture of these people in a room. A whole bunch of people all in their own little rooms, all kind of fighting, pushing against the walls. Everyone's a narcissist, I guess. In 2005, the psychologist, I'm not even going to try to say that name, this guy was researching extremist groups, trying to understand what leads people to commit acts of terrorist and violence. And she began to notice something that looked a lot like what the 20th century scholars Theodor Adorno and Erich Fromm had referenced to group narcissism. And she says it's as a belief that the exaggerated greatness of one's group is not sufficiently recognized by others, in which that thirst for recognition is never satiated. At first she thought it was a fringe phenomena, but important nonetheless. She developed the collective narcissism scale to measure the severity of group narcissistic beliefs, including statements such as "my group deserves special treatment," and "I insist upon my group getting the respect that is due to it," with which respondents rate their agreement. Now, what's interesting about this up here in Canada and probably other parts of the world, so we had the Europeans come in and kind of push their religion on the indigenous people. Well, now we have all the indigenous people are groups of people, and they call them First Nations here in Canada, and then there's Métis group. I actually belong to the Métis group, and you can belong to them, and I guess they probably do things. I've never ever done anything. I just kind of got the card, I guess, when everyone was getting them. But what I see this has to go away, because what's happening here is the First Nations can get all kinds of benefits, dental work for free, and all kinds of, and some of, if you're on the reserve, you can get like a new truck every year kind of a thing, and you find these new trucks in the ditch just wrecked. And I'm not going to spell that out, but that happens. And I know from being a part of it that happens. So what we've done here is narcissists have come in and taken over, and then little groups of narcissists now exist. Well, we need this, we demand this. So now we have inequality again amongst people. So anyways, that's the world we live in, and it is slowly going away. So I want to talk about next here. Let me just look at this setting here. I'm going to see if I can fix the screen here a little better. Now this article is from JW Thoughts, I believe. Jehovah'sWitnesses.com. It's a website that someone really put a lot of work into. Now, this is the governing body of narcissistic personality is what this article is called. Personality disorder. We're just going to go over it. Terry's the guy that wrote the article here. He joined 19 years ago. This Terry guy, he's written almost 2,000 topics. And he's done 18,000 posts. So Terry put this together. He says, narcissism is a term of psychiatry. Did I say that right? Psychiatry? Yeah. How is it defined and characterized? Well, the narcissist considers themselves to be unique and can only be understood by special people. And we talked about that. And the narcissist requires excessive admiration, possesses a strong sense of entitlement, and willingly takes advantage of others to achieve his or her own ends. So that's a really hardcore narcissist. I was reading one article. I don't think we'll have time to get into all these articles, but it was a really good article. It was talking about how they estimated 1 in 200 people, Americans, fit the bill as a strong narcissist. And then we'll see if we have time after what time do we have? Yeah, we probably will have time. I'll pull it up. And it tells you, it brought up from that person's standpoint, a religious point of view. And it was well written by a person that's, I guess, a psychiatrist that has a bunch of skill sets and so forth. So we'll take a look at that in a bit. But here Terry's writing about it, and he says the narcissist lacks empathy and often believes others are envious of him or her. The narcissist displays arrogant behaviors. In view of the above, he says, I would assert the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses individually as a collective and embody the above description. Now, what the article did say is these heavy narcissists, it's life. They're narcissists for life, because they may even say, oh, yeah, I'm a narcissist and I'm really, they may appear, but they may just be doing that as a front. Because they're a narcissist, they know how to control the audience. The real good narcissists, like Hitler, some of these guys that we've seen in history really know how to control people and say the right things. Now, in view of the above, I would assert that the governing body, individually or collectively, fits that description. I agree with Terry. The history of the organization of the Bible students under Russell and Judge Rutherford demonstrates this narcissism. I would agree. All the research I've done. Both Russell and Rutherford, their wives left them. They were too narcissistic. Rutherford, when he became president, shortly after that, his wife couldn't live with him, if you look into some of the history. Now, the personality of what has become known as the organization is an extension or projection of individual mental disorder among the elite and is passed down to influence or infect the thinking and the outward personality of the rank and files. Now, we're going to read that again because I believe that. It's like a virus. So the elite that are writing the Elders book. The Elders book is nothing but a narcissistic book about control, how to control these innocent people, and how to. It's more about disfellowshipping. It's not about love. Love shows up in the book 6 times. Disfellowshipping shows up 130 times. It's a book that teaches elders how to control and whip the flock, figuratively, and whip your children. Beat them into submission, right? Those little enemies of God. And this is kind of the thought process of these guys. So here it is again. The personality of what has become known as the organization is an extension or a projection of the individual mental disorder among the governing body, the elite. And that's passed down to influence, like a virus, to infect the thinking and the outward personalities of all of the 8.7 million members, and I was one. And I felt those effects for the 30 years, and I acted like a narcissist over and over again. When you actually believe that you have the truth, that's very powerful. And you go to work, I'd go to work, and I'd be working amongst lots of worldly people in my profession. But I would believe that the Mormons beside me didn't have the truth, and I kind of always felt God would have a place for these people. But I felt that we had the truth and they didn't. And we had lots of little debates. And you know how that is, a JW and a Mormon going back and forth. That'll never end. And it didn't. Never ends. Because they believe they have the truth. And that they told me that Mormons have a place in heaven at least. I'd tell him, well, you're going to be toasted if you don't change. And he didn't like that. And he said, we at least have a place for you guys. We're way up here, but you guys, there's a place for you guys. And anyways, 2 narcissists going at it. Anyways, it was an interesting journey. And when I look back, sometimes we go through life and we wonder, why do we do all those things? What was life about? And then we look at ourselves right now, where we are right now, and we wonder, well, if I didn't do all those things, I wouldn't be able to sit here in front of you guys and have this discussion. When you were one, and you had to undo it. And even getting out of that organization, you still have to undo it. Because I was out for 10 years, but I still believed it.
I believed it to the point I sent one of my best friends over to study with them, and within 3 months he demonized me. Then I started asking some serious questions. I was demanding questions like a narcissist. I was going back at these guys, text message. My poor wife was sitting here. My good wife was sitting here, and she couldn't believe it. She says, "What are you doing? You're having a sword fight with the Bible. What's wrong with you guys?" Like, she couldn't believe it. And that's when she started getting involved, and she said, "You better start writing this stuff all down." And so then we did that, and I wrote that book, and it was just an escape book. It was a way of escaping, getting out of this narcissistic feeling, getting out of my own head. So then I'd put it into a book, and I'd be the main character in the book, and it's all narcissism in a way. To think that you're going to go to heaven and have some revelation given to you. But it's fiction. We're not right. I don't write. I write real events based on fiction, based on real events. Watchtower writes, it's all true, man. It's all true. And really, they're just writing fiction. Watchtower just writes fiction, but they believe it's to be true, and they present it as truth. So there's a difference, right? That's narcissism. So this article talks about Charles Taze Russell and William Miller. If you remember, William Miller was the Seventh-day Adventist, the start of the Seventh-day Adventist. Well, Russell and them were together, and two narcissists working together, and then they split up. They each formed their own narcissistic group. William Miller was the linchpin of his thinking, of this thinking. He spurned his family's religious thinking, just like Russell would after him. So he goes on to talk about it. I don't think I'm going to read all of this. The governing body, personality number 2, Rutherford. He was an arrogant narcissism. I like talking about Judge Rutherford. I don't know if you guys know a lot about him. But Judge Rutherford saw himself in a special chosen role as God's mouthpiece. Let's just read this for a bit because it's kind of funny. Rutherford used insider legal knowledge to wrest control of the Watchtower Corporation away from Russell's explicitly chosen successors. Yeah, Russell had all his Bible students, the guys with the beards. They were all the ones that were chosen, and Rutherford flipped it. Like, just with his smarts, legal. He was the lawyer for the Watchtower back then. Rutherford blasted verbally anybody who differed with him. Rutherford malaligned, challenged, decried, and badmouthed his own nation, leaders, fellow Christians with a superiority unequaled for narcissism's profile. He and his board were arrested for fomenting sedition among members of the armed forces during World War I. Upon release, Rutherford sought to control all the Bible students' groups throughout the world by sending helpers to organize local congregations and get lists of members, and appointing local elders sympathetic to his leadership. In short, Judge Rutherford was everything you read above on the list of narcissistic traits, and then some. If Russell could spout prophecy, so could Rutherford. Rutherford set the date of 1925 as the resurrection of the faithful dead, the ancient worthies, and later had a mansion built for their use, and for his own use, actually, is what it was built for. But he had a way of flipping that one. Get the Watchtower to build it. He drove a Cadillac, so he lived a good life. And when his wife left him, he came down to this mansion, and some of the stories that are circulating are that he had 7 houses around this mansion, and he had women in them. He had kind of like a harem going on, and it was his Bethel family. But there's a lot of stories about Rutherford, and that he was a drunk as well. The guy was up drinking. He was drunk, giving a lot of his a lot of his big speeches, he was drunk. They had to actually carry him off the stage a couple of times. So Rutherford even had the unmitigated ego to find a better name for Christians than the king himself. Instead of merely Christians, true believers were now Jehovah's Witnesses. So the term witness appealed to the ex-judge particularly. In court, he was an ex-judge, a witness. You're going to be the witness. You can see kind of the legal structure of the whole Watchtower. It's a very logistic. The Elders book, the way it's written, it's like for little judges. That whole Elders book, we've been dissecting it. Crazy. And that goes right back to all of these guys. Rutherford, Knorr, he was just as bad for trying to organize everything and control it. He was a big controller. So here, let's talk about Rutherford. He set up the local congregation like a court with districts and circuits, and appointed his own henchmen to visit regularly and implement his dictates. It's exactly what it was. What members became was a public spectacle, reflecting Rutherford's ideas and personality. Court cases were public displays of contrarian behavior and belief. Blood refusal was a public display of self-righteousness. Military avoidance was public demonstration of a holier-than-thou pacifism, trumping Christendom's patriotism. And the idea and the concept of the faithful and discreet slave being C.T. Russell was forthwith changed to that of the society itself. Specifically, only Rutherford had the legal leadership of his body, and his fellow board members were a front and without power. And this was a step one in converting the FDS into a narcissistic surrogate for Rutherford's megalomaniacal fantasies. You have some really big words there, Terry, for a farmer like me. Now, when Rutherford died, a puppet ruler replaced him. Personality number 3, Fred Franz. Let's talk about Fred Franz. Nathan Knorr was the sock puppet of the real narcissistic leader, Fred Franz. Franz was a guru who himself was another Miller, self-taught, self-regulated, appointed by God and in the know from the divine control. And the FDS was, in essence, the narcissist Franz, who wrote the dynamic blatherings of dispensationalism. What? Dispensationalism? Something like that. So every book went on and on about how the Bible characters pictured latter-day Jehovah's Witnesses. Interesting. So Franz, in effect, pulled his peculiar theology out of his own elementary canal by applying every scripture into the Bible to Jehovah's Witnesses of the 20th century. That's what happened, eh? The conventions in the 1920s became the fulfillment of the book of Revelation, pouring bowls of wrath upon Christendom. The death of the two witnesses became the imprisonment of Rutherford and his board, etc., etc. And without Fred Franz and his narcissistic imagination, Knorr would have been just another businessman. When Franz finally prevailed in pushing ahead his agenda of end-time speculations, phony chronologies and speculations, he was demonstrating to all the world what only a true narcissist would attempt. Franz was showing the world that God worked through him alone. The sham of the faithful and discreet slave receiving angelic guidance was a pretense for the rank and file, and Knorr. And in reality, one man who was above all others, Franz, was able to control millions of true believers and steer them left and right as he ordained. The dramatic plunge ahead towards certain destruction, 1974-75, would forever prove to the world who was right and who was wrong, except a true narcissist who is too arrogant to repent, relent, and face reality. The FDS became a tool of revenge upon those who sought to disparage the special mouthpiece of God in pointing out his errors and self-myths. A turnabout in policy ensured the sought payback for the humiliations brought on by Armageddon's no-show. The remaining decades of the 70s led up to the crackdown of the 80s. Narcissists must be admired alone. The FDS is alone the true prophet of God. So the FDS would be the governing body, would be the true prophet of God. What's the FDS? They don't call them that now, right? The FDS. Anyways, let us pause to review. Read the list of 9 symptoms of a narcissist. Apply each to the dictates, policies, and writings of the governing body as it transformed over this history. Today, the governing body is an iron fist of pure ego, entitlement, and arrogance. The governing body are the be-all and end-all of Jehovah's mercy and embrace. The Bible was written not for all of mankind, but only for them alone. They easily see themselves as kings and priests and co-mediators with Christ. The truth and the accurate knowledge stem from this body alone in all earth, according to them. Narcissists frequently attract admirers, fans, worshippers who are willing to do anything to feel special by obtaining their approval. When you were a Jehovah's Witness, did you, number 1, possess a grand sense of importance that you alone had found the true religion? Absolutely. Did you willingly expose yourself to humiliation and social disconnect with your peers outside? Absolutely. We did. This religion just to obtain approval from this governing body. Number 2, did we share in the fantasies of the righteous new order, where you'd live forever in a perfect peace with your loved ones, while all the rest of mankind died a horrifying death at Armageddon? Yes, I did. Number 3, believe you were special. Did you believe you were special as a true witness about Jehovah, using his true name and carrying his message to those perishing in Christendom? Yes, I did. Number 4, did you believe your status as Jehovah's Witness made your religious views superior to all the others and made your works and faith more acceptable to God than all other Christians, no matter how sincere? Yes, I did. Number 5, have a strong sense of entitlement. Did we have that? To God's promises by virtue of the fact you had given up worldly connections, holidays, education, fame, career, and recreation, and time. Yeah, we're buying our way in, it seemed like, but yet, we didn't have to pay anything, but we did. Number 6, did we take advantage of others' ignorance of the true meaning of the scripture by explaining to them the real meaning and purpose of Jehovah's kingdom in order to replace their own faulty understanding? Yes, I did. Number 7, did I lack empathy for those who would perish in Armageddon because they didn't listen? We knocked on the front door and the back door, and they didn't listen. Yeah, I did. They didn't listen. So did we lack empathy for the young, the old, the suffering, and volunteering for charity work since you knew your JW ministry was more important? Yes, I did. So, in other words, and I wondered about this. Quite honestly, I actually asked elders. I said, I have a hard time believing, there's a lot of good going on in the world. And they'd always say, well, Jehovah reads hearts. But if you're not in, there's only one ark. There's Noah, there wasn't 2 or 3 arks out there. They always had that kind of a explanation, right? And so what do? We'd go along with that thinking. We'd go along with the group thinking, even though in our minds, the cognitive, the wheels weren't turning right. Something was getting jammed. All those people at the food banks helping out, donating all their time, helping the poor. And we're wondering, okay, this isn't working. But the elders says there's only one ark, and it's up to you to get out and spread the message. So that's kind of the thought, the boat we were in. It's called group narcissism. Number 8. Did I envy the elders who had more privileges or thought yourself inviolable because you knew and practiced a better way of life? Well, I was always trying to be an elder, always, but I'd never ever make it. I made it to being a ministerial servant, and then I got canceled in I don't know, not even a year. I bet you I didn't even make a year out of that one. But anyways, number 8. Number 9. Did I display arrogance against authorities, seminary graduates, teachers, government officials because their status came from a dying old world system? I don't know if I did that. I wasn't that hardcore. But a lot did. I worked with people all over, so I didn't buy into that, all of it. It all comes down to an infection by ideas reflecting narcissism by leaders. The body follows the head in its bidding. If the head has a mental disorder, the body will follow. Exactly. And once we follow our head, the governing body of narcissists, and once we were a special if we did in their exact bidding. Now we know better. Now our purpose has become exposing the disorder and the psychology of these miscreants before they twist more potential victims into their web of feckless deceit. Wow, Terry. What a writing. Okay, see the Watchtower Society for what it is, the result of narcissistic personality disorder. Great job, Terry. We're going to move on here. So that gives you an idea what, if you have been a Jehovah's Witness, or you are one, or PMO, or you know this stuff is true. Like, this is a no-brainer, really. Any of us, even if someone showed me this when in that 10-year period, I was still thinking I had the truth, this would kind of help wake me up a bit. But no one wants to be called a narcissist. That's kind of like a swear word. I'm not a narcissist. It's like, you're an apostate. I think you're being an apostate. I'm not an apostate. I love the governing body. I love them. I just commented on Stephen Lett's facial thing. You could be an apostate. Where does it start? Where does it stop, right? So once we start looking at what narcissism and these really heavy into it narcissists, the governing body, that's pretty heavy narcissistic feelings. We won't ever understand it completely, and that'll be the next article. But before we do that, I think we're going to go to a commercial, and we're going to take a look at XJW Critical Thinkers. Now, I don't know if they're on, but they did a really good movie here 4 years ago on this very topic. And these guys have been around for a while. Well, they got a big about. They're former teachers and members of the Watchtower theology. We have an insider information to raise public awareness. Most important, we know the psychological tactics the organization uses to lure unsuspecting coverts into the believing its deceptive teachings. And as former members of this, we understand how an enormous burden befalls members who cannot maintain the pace and the burden of shame, fear, obligation, guilt, judgment, and condemnation, accusations of being unappreciative, and the inability to truly love God. And that's what it's like. And, you don't really understand that completely. These are all just words to most people. But until you've been in it, this just really makes you really understand it. Now, if through our platform we help a single person in anguish over his or her inability to live up to the group's standards, unattainable standards that have been nothing whatsoever to do with the Bible or loving God, or prevent unsuspecting victims from joining the group, or assist public educators to better understand their pupils, or help men, broken family relationships, or motivate individuals to see the need to further their education, we will have succeeded. So that's what this channel's about, XJW Critical Thinkers. A lot of you guys probably know who they are. It's JT and Lady C. So let's take a look at this video here, and I'm going to put that on the big screen. And it's a 28-minute video. So I was looking at stopping it and starting it, and look, they've really done a good job on this video. I wanted to say they're going to cover 3 points on this video. A persecution complex. Now they say we discussed the top 3 things that identify the Jehovah's Witnesses as collective narcissists. And number 1 is the persecution complex. 2 is belief that they are the only true religion. And 3 is they believe they are the center of attention. So that's what we're going to look at in this video here. So we'll get this pulled up.
You're listening to The Critical Thought, where we challenge our listeners to use critical thinking when examining the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Hey, this is Lady C. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Critical Thought. In the upcoming segment, we will be discussing the top 3 areas where Jehovah's Witnesses exhibit collective narcissism. And we are teaming up with Ark Ripley of Arglue to collaborate on this topic. Now, Ark is not one of Jehovah's Witnesses and has no affiliation with the group, so he'll be bringing in his outside perspective in the topic of collective narcissism. Thank you, Ark, for being on the program.
I just want to first start off and say thank you so much, EXJW, Critical Thinker, for having me here, Lady C and JT, and just a little bit of background about who I am. Again, my name is Ark Ripley. I have a YouTube channel, Arglue, and I studied communication at USC, also at the University of Amsterdam, and I studied for quite a while just, about language, how it affects society, and after graduating and all that stuff, I just ran into the topic of narcissism. I was really skeptical and thinking like, whoa, wait a minute, I can't believe what's happening here. As I started researching this, I said, wait, a lot of the people that I've been in contact with, I'm realizing that I've been dealing with narcissism, people who potentially have narcissistic personality disorder. And this is after studying people like Dr. Ramani Devrosila, different clinical psychiatrists, and what they have to say about the topic. And so basically today, I know what we're going to talk about is collective narcissism, narcissism on the collective level. But I want to first start off by talking about it from the individual aspect. And the reason for that is because they're basically pretty much the same thing. When we talk about narcissism, I think the thing that people should really keep in their minds is the one thing that drives narcissists, the one thing that drives human beings, which is we all have the need to feel special. And so a healthy person, for example, trying to fulfill that need to feel special, what they'll do is they might go out and, work hard to become a fantastic guitarist, right? They might work for 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. And after 6 months of rehearsing, people who've heard them 6 months ago might hear them and go, whoa, wow, you're amazing. I can't believe how great you sound. Now, the narcissist might do something like that, but the difference between a narcissist and someone who is healthy, the narcissist will fulfill this need to feel special at any and all costs. So whereas a healthy person might fulfill that need to feel special by doing, working hard or doing whatever, a narcissist or a toxic individual might do it at the expense of other people. And so that's what I think we really need to keep in our minds is basically the addiction that the narcissist has. There are levels to narcissism. You have like what clinical psychologists call like an egoist, and I'm not going to go into that right now, but basically they'd be at the unhealthy level of narcissism where they have absolutely no narcissism. And then you have the extreme narcissist, which is at the level 10, who's like the toxic individual. But that toxic person, what it is they are addicted to feeling special. And so that's what I want to keep the focus on when we think about narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder. Now, going into collective narcissism, it's really the same thing. Collective narcissism obviously is on the collective level where it's just the belief that the group has some type of, they're exceptional in some type of way. They are really there to protect the grandiose image of this group. And a lot of times members within the group, they're not necessarily concerned with trying to better the group. So, for example, if it's a hate group, they're not necessarily interested in trying to make the group have empathy or show empathy towards others. What they're more concerned about is that grandiose image that I'm talking about. If people challenge that image or members within the group fear that that image somehow, or they will be somehow set back because of gains that things that other people are gaining, then it kind of threatens that group, the collective narcissistic group.
Have a pay transparency plan but don't know how to get started? Let us help you put your plan in motion. Say hi to Bob, the modern HR platform that activates your pay transparency plan. Identify pay gaps by gender, ethnicity, and more for compliance and a culture of fairness.
Okay, so in this
Sorry about
particular
that.
episode, as I had stated before, we will be discussing the top 3 areas where Jehovah's Witnesses are collective narcissists. And the first area that we're going to be discussing is the persecution complex.
Hey, Art, we appreciate you getting with us to do this video because one of the things that we have often discussed on our channel, especially in reference to Jehovah's Witnesses, people oftentimes will refer to them as a cult. I prefer, and we've often discussed this, referring to them really as a high control group. And the reason why is because it's very easy to describe them in terms of characteristics. And one of the characteristics that we have looked at, and that's why we wanted to talk to you, because you've often done a lot of videos on this, you've had a lot of discussion about this, so we've enjoyed listening to you and talking to you personally about the characteristics that can identify not only a narcissistic person, but as you said, a collective group of people who demonstrate the same type of characteristics. And I was just thinking about the area of how Jehovah's Witnesses feel about persecution. Jehovah's Witnesses feel that basically they're the only people who are persecuted as Christians. There's a website, it's called persecution.org. And we invite people, if you get a chance, to go there. It's called persecution.org. And what it basically does, it's like a group that monitors the type of persecution that people who are part of Christianity around the world are experiencing. And when you go on this site, what you will see is they also discuss Jehovah's Witnesses. What is interesting is we're talking about something to the tune of over 100 million people who are Christians who often experience persecution for what they believe. If you go to the Jehovah's Witnesses site, you will not see any mention of any other religious groups being persecuted. So my question for you is, since you made the point that a narcissist is often a person or group that wants to make themselves feel special, what type of characteristics would you find as you examine a religious group like the Jehovah's Witnesses?
So some of the attitudes and behaviors that narcissists, will display are, it really, first of all, I'd like to say this. If you think about collective narcissism, it extends from ethnocentrism, where people, what is ethnocentrism? People will go to another country, for example, and they will describe that person's religious beliefs or their value system based on definitions from their own perception or from where they're from. And so a lot of times these types of individuals, they are basically going to view other people as extensions of themselves, and they're not going to come from a place like, if you think about an anthropologist or a good anthropologist, for example, they will go to another country and they will let those people speak for themselves. And you might even see, once you see the documentary about what this anthropologist discovered, for example, you might see at the bottom of the screen, everything will be translated in English because they're allowing these people to speak in their own native, in their own tongue from their own experiences. And so a lot of times people who have narcissistic characteristics or who have narcissistic personality disorder will frame things from their own frame of reference. I guess that's the best way to describe it. And in the collective narcissistic organism, you'll have people who are really defensive about that collective's identity, and they get really upset. They might, there might be physical attacks, there might be personal attacks that come from this because, again, that image is threatened. And these individuals within the collective, they basically form their own identity from within that collective, because a lot of times maybe people may not feel like they have a certain amount of success in their own lives, and so they're able to kind of siphon or extract some of the grandiose image from this narcissistic collective.
Yeah, I look back myself as growing up one of Jehovah's Witnesses. This feeling of being special was very, very important to us. Anytime we heard an article or heard something that was happening to a Jehovah's Witness, that's how we responded many times. And especially when it comes to persecution, As a witness, we would feel that we were oftentimes being persecuted for our religious beliefs, even if the religious belief turned out to be absolutely wrong. Let me give you a perfect example. For a number of years, witnesses were told that they could not take certain blood fractions. So you may have a person or a family that has an accident and they need a certain type of blood fraction that they were told by the Watchtower, you can't have this fraction. So you would get doctors and people at the hospital and judges, they would all get involved trying to force, quote unquote, blood fractions on Jehovah's Witnesses. And what would happen is, as a Jehovah's Witness, we would view that we were being persecuted. Take, for example, hemoglobin was one of the blood fractions that for many, many years a Jehovah's Witness could not take. So if they found themselves in a hospital before a judge, before hospital administrators and doctors telling them you need to take this, the witness would have said they were being persecuted for the sake of God. Then when the Watchtower changed it and said it's okay to take hemoglobin now, the question you have to ask is, well, were you being persecuted for God, or were you merely being persecuted because of the group that you belong to came up with this? And of course, for a critical thinker, the answer is very obvious. You weren't really under any type of Christian persecution. You were under Watchtower persecution, as it were, because it had nothing to do with God. And so many times people, they have these ideas in their mind, and they actually think they're being persecuted for God's sake, when in fact, it's not the case at all.
We used to send our proposals in Word, and it started to embarrass us.
You're late.
Oh, yeah, we're done. What'd you expect?
So that's how we'll take Acme client code to the next.
Thanks, guys. Excellent points. Now, let's move on to the next topic. And this is where Jehovah's Witnesses believe that they are the only true religion.
So now I want to talk about this concept that we spoke about, Lady C and JT, before doing this video. We kind of summarized it where we were saying that Jehovah's Witnesses believe that they have the only true religion and that there is no other denomination to gain salvation from except theirs. And so a lot of times I think the problem with that is, you have people who are believing something that really hasn't been proven to be true. And this is what this is what I gained from being a communication student. We're taught that you really, anytime you're trying to prove something, there's always a possibility that it's not true. So I'm not going to come on this channel and say, hey, everyone, I'm going to prove to you that the ocean is real today. Because nobody would sit here, because the things that we don't talk about are the things that we have all silently agreed they're true, right? I don't have to prove to you that the sun exists or the ocean exists because there's a silent agreement. We don't talk about the things that we know to be true. So if I'm trying to prove something to you, there's always a chance that it may not be true, right? So the easiest way around that to keep people from critically thinking is to say, you know what, is to use guilt. And if you look at any value system, there's always guilt or fear attached to it. But I tend to think that guilt works a lot better on people, especially when it comes to religion. And so if you say, you're going to go to this horrible place, or you're going to be destroyed after you die, or whatever it is, it guilts people into believing something that you have not proven to be true. And I think that's why a lot of people find it difficult to be able to critically think, because of the guilt and the fear that's attached to this value system that they've learned all of their lives. And I want to say this too, I also think it's cognitive dissonance. What guilt does is it causes cognitive dissonance. And for those of you all who don't know what that means, cognitive dissonance is basically when you have two conflicting ideas. So for example, if you have a husband who's knocking you through 5 walls, right? And you realize if someone says, hey, it may be time for you to leave this person, what people tend to do is the cognitive dissonance will keep them in a negative or abusive situation. They'll say, well, yeah, he's knocking me through 5 walls, but who am I going to be if I'm not with him? He provides me with $3,000 a month. He takes the kids to school. He does all these things. Who am I going to be without this person? And so that's what the guilt and the fear does to people. And it allows them to basically take on a value system or a belief system, and the person has not done a good job of proving it.
Arch, you're making an excellent point. The guilt tripping. That is actually one of the techniques that's very well used by Jehovah's Witnesses as an organization. In fact, we refer to it as the fog, fear, obligation, and guilt. And the point that you made about the abusive wife or the abusive spouse who is told, where are you going? What would I be if I leave this person? It's interesting because that is actually one of the cornerstone teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses. When a person is starting to become one of Jehovah's Witnesses, they'll basically teach you a couple of things. They'll teach you all the books of the Bible. They'll teach you all the basic Bible characters. And when a person is considering leaving, they will often throw out the question, where are you going? That's exactly the same as an abusive husband does. Basically, he's letting his wife or whatever know, you cannot make it without me. And that is what every Jehovah's Witness faces, because all of their life, I mean, literally all of their life. In fact, that's probably one of the number one questions that we find, because we consider Jehovah's Witnesses experience spiritual abuse. Their religion literally beats them almost to death. And in some cases, they do lose their lives because of doctrines that turn up to be absolutely bogus at the end of the day. So people have lost their life for bogus doctrines. And so these people often, when they get ready to consider leaving, that's one of the first questions they'll ask. Well, where am I going? I don't have nowhere to go. And that's interesting because that's what they were told when they first became one of Jehovah's Witnesses. You have nowhere to go. And that's the same thing that an abusive spouse is often told, like you mentioned. They are often told, you won't make it without me. And they will feel that way. There are so many women who have stayed in abusive relationships over the years, historically, because I don't think I have anywhere to go. And as long as they don't know of anywhere to go, they will stay. But facts show that when people realize that they can leave an abusive spouse and there are support systems in place that will help them, it's interesting, these people will oftentimes leave. And that has actually been one of the key tools for Jehovah's Witnesses. A person feels he has no support system. And the reason why is because very skillfully and much by design, the witness has been cut off from all persons who are not witnesses. They form no bonds, no relationships with anybody outside of the witness world. Any witness who forms a bond, a friendship, a relationship with persons outside of the religion is going to be condemned. You would be literally hard-pressed, and I mean hard-pressed, Ark, to find a Jehovah's Witness who would introduce someone on their job or someone in their community to other Jehovah's Witnesses and say, this is one of my best friends. Can't do that. Can't do that. So the witness has no friends or structure outside the religion. So when he gets ready to leave, and part of leaving means that you will be cut off from all those within the religion, the person literally has no support system. And over the years, that has really been the problem for many persons who are considering leaving this religion. But interestingly, with the advent of the internet, it's a game changer. And I really mean it is a game changer. You see, Art, what it has allowed people to do now is to be able to find support systems outside of the religion. And that's what we try to help people to see. There are support systems that can help you. And so they feel that this is the only true religion. No other religion can teach me the truth. And so they look and they long for this elusive thing of being able to find just the truth. If they can't teach this, then this is not for me. So this idea of this being the only true religion is deeply ingrained in Jehovah's Witnesses. And as a result, it has caused many persons who realize I really need to leave to actually stay.
That's so true. I mean, if you think about any type of situation where people don't want to leave, that cognitive dissonance plays a huge role in that because, people will say, well, who will I be? I mean, even you hear this happen with, people who are, let's say, for example, gay, and they have to tell their parents, hey, I'm gay. And they're afraid of telling that person because, well, maybe I'm going to be ostracized. The family's going to disown me. And a lot of times that happens in religions. From what I know, this happens in the Jehovah's Witness faith as well. If I come out, if I challenge the religion or if I critically think too much, what's going to happen? Am I going to be ostracized? Is my family going to ostracize me? Will I have anyone who's able to take my side for just critically thinking and saying, wait a minute, I don't know if that sounds true. And a lot of times, just like that spouse, that woman or that man who's in an abusive relationship, they'll get signals and they'll get signs either from other people or just from simply being knocked through 5 walls, but they'll get signs that will tell them, I don't know if this feels right. Or, we have feelings and we know when something doesn't necessarily feel correct or all the way correct for who we are. And so, yeah, we'll critically think about that. But I think what, EXJW, what you all are doing is really phenomenal because what it does is it allows that person who's in the dark, who's, reading at night, who has that kind of mind where they're ready to challenge certain value systems and certain things in our society that they've been taught either through, just growing up in the faith or however they got into it, but they're ready to challenge it. And you all are allowing them to do that, but possibly without feeling ostracized and having to, go before the Jehovah's Witnesses and basically challenge them directly. And you all are providing a lot of information, and you all are a great example of, people who have a mind and who are not afraid to challenge and critically think about any value system that you have. So, I think a lot of people are really going to, or actually do appreciate you for that.
That brings us to our final topic, number 3.
Attention business owners. If you're a business owner, you can get free access to this.
Where Jehovah's Witnesses believe that they are the center of attention.
Yeah, this is an area that ARC, I think, really highlights how collectively groups can be narcissistic. And that is much like an individual. They think that they are the center of attention. As a Jehovah's Witness, that's what we were actually taught. The Watchtower takes a scripture out of the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 4. And it deals with how the apostle made the point that we're a theatrical spectacle in terms of being on the world stage. And as Jehovah's Witnesses, that's what we actually believe. I mean, we actually believe that religions around the world were discussing and plotting against Jehovah's Witnesses. And I know the Lady C and I, when we left the religion, one of the things that we did is we would actually take the time to ask people who were of different faiths, does your minister ever talk about Jehovah's Witnesses in his sermons? And they're like, no. I've been up 22 years, never heard anything. And we would just ask people all the time, people in the job, does your pastor ever talk about Jehovah's Witnesses? Nah, I've never heard anything mentioned before. And so then we started asking other former Jehovah's Witnesses, have you ever asked anybody as to whether or not Jehovah's Witnesses or the conversation surrounding Jehovah's Witnesses is being discussed in your church? In other words, there being pamphlets being written or bulletin board issues being discussed. And do you realize that I have not met anyone who has talked about that? Yeah, they talk about Jehovah's almost all the time. They have never mentioned Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, I was really amazed just how little people talk about Jehovah's Witnesses. And so as a Jehovah's Witness, I was walking around town thinking that, we're the center of attention here in the community, when in reality, we're not. Jehovah's Witnesses are really a small part of the religious population. But yet we actually thought that we were the center of attention when it came to religion. Once again, that collective narcissistic mindset. And that was one of the interesting things about thinking that we're always being on the stage.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. It's the us against them. It's just like a lot of narcissists believe that they are the center of the universe, at least from what I've studied with individual narcissists. And so what it does is it causes people to have this reaction to basically defend the group, because if people are trying to persecute us or they're trying to destroy the message that we have, this truth that we have for the world, then we have to stop them. We have to keep them from harming us. And, a lot of times it may not even be a direct confrontation. It may just be someone saying something that conflicts with what Jehovah's Witnesses, for example, believe, and it might make a lot of sense. Somebody might critically think about something, and to a person who is a part of that collective, they see that as a threat, again, to that grandiose image, and so they'll go out and try to protect it, as opposed to trying to make the community better and saying, wait a minute, maybe our belief system is wrong in this area, and we need to figure out why we believe this and not what someone else is saying who might be Christian or whatever. But again, they'll go out and try to protect that image.
Oh, Ark, you're right on the point. I mean, just right on point. The us versus them mindset is something that, interestingly, Jehovah's have actually they polished it to a shining stone. I mean, they got it down to a science. Every Jehovah's Witness little kid is told over and over again that you and your classmates, you have to help them. And they're told them that if they don't come to the Kingdom Hall, they will not survive Armageddon. Every Jehovah's Witness child has been told that. Because many times they'll refer to their classmates as their friends. And the witnesses will teach them, no, they're not your friends because they're not friends of Jehovah. So they're not your friends. And so they create this mindset. So you figure by the time a child starts in the first grade looking at his classmates, they're not friends of God, they're enemies of God. By the time you get to your senior year in high school, you see your classmates as dead meat, because if they didn't accept the message that you were trying to give to them, that's how you basically will end up viewing them. That is really the bottom line. And so in the community, you don't look at your neighbors other than someone that you can offer them something published by the Watchtower. In your family, your relatives, once again, you don't look at them as anyone more than someone you can offer Watchtower material. And so as a result, you get that us versus them. And that's why people often say, witnesses will break up families because they don't do things with the family anymore socially, or many times they will limit these things because they're taught to do this. And so this narcissistic mindset that you've mentioned, both on an individual level and especially when you look at a collective group where everybody's being taught the same thing and they view people and issues exactly the same way. It's just amazing when you make a comparison of how narcissistic individuals can be and even groups can be.
And so if you think about that, if you're told as a child that these people are not really your friends unless they believe what you believe, then that right there, it implies that you are special, right? Because what you're being taught is people have to be an extension of you, or people have to have an extension of the value system that you believe. And that kind of goes back to ethnocentrism. People are not really people, or people are not really your friend, or they're not good enough unless they're an extension of you. But from what you all are explaining about the Jehovah's Witness faith, I do see a lot of, there are some parallels of narcissism, definitely. So you all, I just want to close out with this. First of all, thank you all again for having me on this channel, JT and Lady C. And I just want to say to your viewers, it's never wrong to critically think. And a lot of times guilt works on a lot of people, especially people in religions. But as I started studying about this topic of narcissism, you start to realize that it's okay. It's okay to critically think. It's okay to question people's motives, or question the motives, of the value system that you've been brought up to believe. And, narcissists are everywhere in our society. In every institution, they exist. And so you have to ask yourself, what are the signs? What are the red flags? And continue down the road of self-love, because I think that's what it boils down to, is self-love. Do you love yourself enough to just ask the questions, to really challenge? And I don't mean challenge directly. If you feel like, and when we talk about individual narcissists, we really try to warn people not to challenge a narcissist directly. But when I say challenge, I mean challenge yourself. Ask yourself the important questions. If I'm in a group of people and, they're all saying the same things and it doesn't really connect with what I believe, or I have just a kind of a differing opinion, will they be receptive of me having my own mind? Will they be receptive of me critically thinking and just asking questions about it? But again, I think it's really important to ask yourself, what do I believe? And that deals with self-love. When we deal with narcissistic individuals and people who've been through narcissistic abuse, a lot of psychologists and clinical psychiatrists will try to get the person who's being abused to understand what they want, or to really focus on themselves, because a lot of times we as individuals, especially people who come from a religious background, we are used to being extensions of someone else or extensions of a group. And I think we're moving towards a time now where everybody is ascending, we're evolving, and we're asking questions, and it's okay. And so you all, I think that's what you're doing on this channel, EXJW Critical Thinker. I think it's great what you're doing. And once again, I thank you for having me. Thanks so much.
Art, I just want to say thank you, my wife as well, because you've given people something very simple, food for thought. And that's what it's all about. We want to be able to think critically, ask the critical thinking questions, and of course, be willing to accept what the answers are.
We want to thank you all for tuning in to another episode of The Critical Thought. We appreciate having you in our audience. Always feel free to email us if you have questions or comments. And you can send those emails to exjwct@gmail.com. This has been Lady C, and thank you for being in our audience.
Hey, Jay the Comedian here. Did you enjoy that video? Would you like to see more content like it? Then you gotta subscribe. And it'd really be a big help to JT and Lady C if you like the video and leave a comment. Make sure you hit this little notification bell right here. That way you'll know when another video gets posted. I really hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next video.
This program was sponsored by Critical Thinkers.
It's Michael's big holiday sale. Get up to 50% off holiday must-haves for every room in budget.
Okay, we're back on. Well, thanks again to Critical Thinkers, JT and Lady C and Ark Ripley for that excellent discourse on Jehovah's Witnesses and collective narcissism. Now, I don't know if you guys got the point, but I didn't really get it until I watched this video on the guilt. And then you get thinking of it, there's a lot of guilt in that religion. A lot of it. In fact, the whole thing is made upon guilt. You know, you feel guilty if you don't get enough service time. Mind you, that's changed now, right? They took that little piece. You just have to check the box. You don't have to feel guilty anymore for not being the national average. That was a big one, and I know in our family, I had a lot of guilt I carried over the years because not all my family members could get the national average, and so, you know, I found it easy. I not everyone finds going up to someone's door. I wasn't totally comfortable with it, but I didn't mind it. I was a little bit of a salesman, I think, and I did sales. That's kind of was part of I ended up couldn't do higher education, so you become a door-to-door salesman. I did that for a while, actually. Anyways, that's another story. You get good at the door, that's all. Not everyone's good at the door, and you know, little kids, right? Your little kids are supposed to be national average, or you're not good enough to be the ministerial servant or an elder, or you're not good enough to even have privileges if you don't. So once we determined that as we went through the elders book, if your family cannot all be really active, you might as well just give up. Don't even try. Don't even waste your time, is what I learned. And I learned that after I left. So anyways, this has been an interesting evening. Narcissism, how narcissism works and how they groom us with this narcissism. And we end up being narcissistic to our families, you know, pushing them. Trying to control them and make them little robots. Okay, you got to get... And when you have to count time, I was trying to get my family out in the service continually. And I think I was a tyrant as a dad. Trying to... Okay, no, you can't play Xbox today. You got to come out in service. I'm going to lock that Xbox up for a week if you don't listen, son. You know, you'd have all these kind of battles and crap and... all over trying to push this field service, this guilt. It's all guilt. The whole religion's built upon guilt. And I didn't really realize it until I was watching this video. So yeah, great job. I think that brings our program to an end. There's lots of information on this, and I'm sure we're going to have lots of other opportunities to talk about this. So just to wrap things up, I'm looking at the live chat here now. I'm back on a different screen here. I'll show you the screen that I'm looking at. Looks like this. No. Looks like this. I can be in the screen like that. But you know, lots of times the screen's better. So anyways, I can see who's on there. 250 Racer. Thanks for being on with us tonight. You did a lot of commenting. Jay, nice to see you. Natasha Peters. Jay, yeah. Well, thanks, guys, for following through on the program. Is there any good points I should be bringing out? Anybody want me to bring out their point? Anything? Usually there's ways of highlighting them, but it was kind of one of those programs that, you know, you kind of sit back. And I remember when I was just waking up, I guess kids and my wife's as well. We started talking about being an apostate. That didn't sit well with me for a long time. I had a hard time with that apostate idea. To be called an apostate? I'm not an apostate, and I fought it. So now I just join forces with Jesus, realizing he's an apostate too. These words have no power over you. As soon as we realize that these are just words, and we're the ones that allow these words to have power over us. So if we can just keep working our way out, and I guess get on these channels, visit with the people online, and talk. So many of us have woken up, and now we can share our experience a bit, talk about it. We can laugh about it because you look back and we were in a trance. It was a trance. It was, a trance. Rutherford trance is what I call it. But it's part of feeling like we're it. We have the truth. Okay, family, let's hop onto the Watchtower. We've got the truth. It just isn't that. And so many of us woke up from that, and we know that it's not that. So anyways, don't feel bad if we went through some of this narcissism stuff. Even getting out, you might have tendencies. Maybe you're the boss in the house. Doesn't mean you're a narcissist. It means you're a good boss, probably. Someone has to be the boss. This word narcissism can be taken out of context, and people can be falsely labeled narcissistic, and that's not nice. It's like a swear word too. But again, I'm the first to admit I came out of the Watchtower. Of course I'm going to have narcissistic tendencies. And that's the first thing I started to realize, and it was like apostates. It's hard to swallow, and then once I started swallowing it a bit, and I guess I do kind of think I kind of know it all. And if I've given you guys that impression online, I'm sorry. I apologize, because I don't know squat. I'm just out here guessing my way through this. You guys are just enjoying the journey with me. I'm trying to fix my faith, I guess. And that's what we're all trying to do. But I probably have moments of narcissism, but if we admit it and talk about it, if we have a partner we can talk about it with, that helps, really helps, because my good wife, she's pretty good at letting me know if I'm getting a fat head about anything, and that's really what it is. We just got to keep ourselves in check. But for the most part, we're just all humans. We're just all people. And we're going to have different personalities. We're all different. There's 9 billion of us on Earth, and we're all a little bit different. Some of us we have similar attributes. Group attributes is what we'll find in life. But we get out of these groups, and sometimes we feel afraid. We feel, I kind of want to be in a group again. Should I join the Mormons? Should I join the Seventh-day Adventists? Who should I join? Who is the truth? We start searching around for the truth. And even within the XJW community, you might search around for the truth. You're not going to find it. I don't think anybody knows the truth. And I think life is a journey. And life is not about knowing the destination. Life is about enjoying the trip. Going on a holiday and enjoying the trip. Just everything's new and exploring it. But if we knew it wouldn't be a exciting journey if we knew it all. So I don't think we're supposed to know it all. Not this journey. Anyways, folks, yes?
Thank you, Racer250, for the donation.
Yes, thank you for Racer250 for the donation. We really appreciate that. And we'll put that to good use. Thank you, everyone, for being online with us tonight and watching. And I don't know what else to say. Anything else? Well, until next time, keep living your life with love. Bye for now.
name is Vern. Join the channel. We cover JW World News, and we give you the rest of the story. Today, we're going to the Watchtower, and we have lives on Tuesday nights and Saturdays, and an excellent community. So join the channel and watch as we crash into the Watchtower. Here it is, I see it coming. Woo! Join us as we report in on the Watchtower.